Hey everyone, and welcome to the Sandbox. Today we are going through yet another era of Disney animation, the Bronze Age, also known as the Dark Age of Disney, which started with the Aristocats in 1970 and ended with Oliver and Company in 1988. Before sitting down to watch these 8 films, I had only seen half of them, so this was definitely a tricky list for me to make because on one hand I had some immense nostalgia for some of these, but on the other hand, some of the newer ones blew me away. So I'm excited to see how you guys would rank these films, so don't forget to share your ranking down in the comments below. I think this might be a controversial era, so with that said, let's dive right on in, starting with number 8, the Aristocats. This is one of the films that I had not seen before sitting down to watch these, and I have mixed feelings on it. First off, I don't think the characters are dynamic enough to make them super memorable unless you watch this film tons of times as a kid, except for maybe Thomas O'Malley. I was definitely enjoying myself when he was on the screen. And second, the plot itself felt very similar to 101 Dalmatians, but in a lazier kind of way. The premise of the film is Madame Adelaide constructs her will so that her fortune goes to her cats, and then reverts to her loyal butler, Edgar. So Edgar plots to eliminate the cats out of the equation by leaving them stranded out in the countryside, and the rest of the film follows the Aristocats trying to make their way back to Paris. However, unlike 101 Dalmatians, the cats have zero aptitude to finding their way back. They're basically utterly helpless. If not for the friends they made along the way, they would have never made it home. Whereas while the Dalmatians themselves had help along the way, they still made the journey and in the end fought back against their oppressors. I think Aristocats offers some cute cats and dogs humor similar to that of 101 Dalmatians, and I love the song Everybody Wants to Be a Cat, but the rest just came off as generic and forgettable to me. Plus, there was a crude swingers joke when O'Malley takes the Aristocats to meet his alley cat friends, and to be honest, that just kind of put me off towards the rest of the film. Moving on to number 7, I have the Black Cauldron. Easily dubbed the black sheep of Disney animation, this film has certainly made a name for itself by almost putting Disney completely out of business. There's a reason this is called the Dark Age, folks. And the film is certainly in line with that, displaying dark themes and a dark fantasy storyline. And while I applaud the dark themes as they actually make sense here with this somewhat Halloween-y feel for the film, again, I think the characters are very one-dimensional and forgettable. Here we have the classic farm boy who wants to be a famous warrior and in turn is thrown into chaos when the Horned King abducts his psychic pig, Henwin. Yeah, you heard me right. From there, our young farmer Taryn runs into Gurgi, who is a weird hybrid between Smeagol and a dog, then Princess Elanui and Fluderflam. Yeah. As they embark on their search for the Black Cauldron to put a stop to the Horned King, which turns out to be a very short journey, but it comes with a very heartwarming ending. I definitely think that this film struggles being based off of a 5-book series, The Chronicles of Prydain, which just doesn't make for good storytelling, especially for kids when you have all these moving parts going on that even Disney themselves can't quite keep straight. But at the end of the day, I still think people can enjoy aspects of this film and learn from Disney's mistakes. I have it above Aristocats because while this may have more flaws, it's definitely left a mark on me and animation as a whole. I like the darker storyline, I loved the musical score, and I find that the more I watch this film, the more nostalgic it becomes for me. But taking the number 6 spot is The Rescuers. Now, I know that there are a lot of people who grew up with this film and love it. However, they are probably much older than I am because this was an entirely new film to me. It definitely has that old-timey Disney feel to it with the characters and the music, but I found this one to be incredibly tough to get through. Its pacing and tone is so slow and dark and sad that I just wanted to turn it off. It is a very morose and gloomy film with seemingly little hope, which makes it tough to enjoy. Now, I will say that the film itself had a very interesting painterly style, and so the character designs felt more realistic in proportion and size. So if you're into mice films, you'll love this one. The main mouse, Miss Bianca, is a super sympathetic character, but I felt like that fire in her eyes in the beginning slowly fizzled out throughout the film, which made my connection to her deteriorate as well. And while I enjoyed Bernard's character as he is this super lovable, stammering janitor, I am left wondering if it would have been a better choice to have an eager young mouse who is excited to go on adventures, who then learns how cruel the world can be. Given the dark lessons at play with this film, I think that choice would have been more in line with the themes. And lastly, I found the villain to be instantly forgettable. I don't even remember her name. She was just your usual generic bad guy capturing a kid and using them to seek a fortune. At the end of the day, this is a solid film that works on many levels, but for me personally, the last 5 to 10 minutes of happiness weren't worth the hour and 20 minutes of depressing hopelessness. Coming in at number 5 is The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, where The Rescuers is a depressing, focused story. Winnie the Pooh is a fun and whimsical anthology of a bunch of stories from A.A. Milne's collection that are woven together. In this film, we follow these beloved characters as Pooh gets stuck in Rabbit's hole. Okay, that came out wrong. Piglet gets swept away on a blistery day, and Pooh Bear runs into the most terrificest of Tiggers. The songs are heartwarming, the characters are fun and innocent, and while the story itself isn't the most innovative or impressive, it's still hard not to enjoy this one and fall in love with the world. Moving on to number 4 is The Fox and the Hound. Now this is one of those films that I had playing on loop in my house as a kid, but when I sat down to watch it, it had easily been over 10 years since I had last seen it, so there was a lot that I had forgotten. And while this story is very sad and dark, similar to The Rescuers, it's also filled with heartwarming and adorable moments sprinkled throughout with an epic ending and even a story of love. The story is filled with ups and downs as we watch an unlikely friendship form between a fox and a hound, a hunter and a prey. And the lessons that this film offers to kids I think are super meaningful, showing that friendships are the most important thing and that the world can be cruel sometimes. But the lessons or reminders that it offers to adults is even more impressive, in that the lessons of kindness and tolerance we learn as children can easily be forgotten as we change and mold into adults. I mean, when Copper turns on Todd, who hurt Chief, I never understood that as a child. I get it more now, but it still stings and hurts when I watch it. This film is so incredibly strong in these ways, and for me was a much better execution of what Bambi was attempting to do, because here, conflict is what drives our characters to their next phases of life. Now, the music isn't the best that Disney has put out, but it's very in line with the nature, outdoorsy tone of the film, which helps immerse you further into the story. Overall, this is a strong film with dark themes that still holds up today and stands out amongst the Dark Age films. Before I get into my top 3, don't forget to share your ranking down in the comments below. It always puts a smile on my face when I see someone share their thoughts on the films that I'm ranking. Plus, I just love getting the chance to talk with you guys about these films. But kicking off my top 3 is The Great Mouse Detective. I'm gonna be transparent and fair here. This was my first time watching this one and I was absolutely blown away. It can easily take my number 2 or even my number 1 spot with more successful rewatches, but for now I'm placing it here. I thought this was a super fun and exciting flick that was kind of like a cute mouse spoof of Sherlock Holmes. I found our main character, Detective Basil, to be incredibly charming and witty, and I loved Ratigan the Bat as a villain. I thought he was funny when appropriate and scary when necessary. I think this film really pulled off the dark themes extremely well, not overusing it like the Black Cauldron did at times, but also not underselling the weight of the stakes here. Another thing I want to note is that this was the first film in a long time where I could notice a sizable improvement in the animation style and drawings themselves. The characters' faces, for one, felt very lively and charismatic here, allowing the voice actors' performances to carry even more weight. And lastly, I adored the music. The world's greatest criminal minds and Let Me Be Good to You blew me away, even though I found the latter to be a little bit risque for children. All in all, I really enjoyed this one and heavily look forward to rewatching this soon. But coming in at number 2, my runner-up is Robin Hood. This is a timeless classic that speaks for itself, but I'll share a few thoughts anyways. I haven't watched this film nearly enough times as it deserves, but my rewatch of it certainly reinvigorated my love for it. While the music might feel outdated at times and the folky tunes might not be for everyone, I found it fitting for the tone of the film and it really drew me into the world. Besides, who doesn't love the love song Love? I mean, they got straight to the point with naming it. It's a gorgeous ballad that definitely gets you more invested in Robin Hood's relationships and his desires. Another thing this film does insanely well is how it handles our emotions. The ups and downs throughout this film can feel like an overpowering roller coaster at times, but it certainly made me hate the villains of the story right down to the bone. This was the first time I ever really wanted to see the villain die on screen. I hated them that much. The things they do and the hardships they create for our beloved characters was way too reminiscent of current politics that I felt overly invested in our heroes' endeavors. But the film comes equipped with great humor and the happiest of endings, making the journey all the more worth it. And lastly, taking my number 1 spot is Oliver and Company. This is the 4th movie in this era that I had not seen before my marathon, and I absolutely adored this film. The music made me want to get up and dance, and the writing made me invested in each character's story. This certainly is the age of animals for Disney. I think the only film that had human main characters was The Black Cauldron. But this one definitely did it the best, putting a neat twist on Oliver Twist by throwing a poor lonesome kitten into the hands of street dogs. The dogs feel more personified and unique here as they each try to show Oliver a useful tip for the real world, and I thought each character arc came together really well in the end, with Fagin indebted to Sykes the loan shark, Dodger learning to selflessly help Oliver, and Oliver simply trying to find a home with a caring owner. The moving pieces come together really well, and the animation style and use of music make the adventure super entertaining and memorable. Well, that's my list. Don't forget to share yours down in the comments below and smash that like button if you enjoyed this video. I'm trying to put out a Disney era ranking every few months or so let me know how I'm doing. Anyways, thanks again for tuning in, and a special welcome to all the new subscribers. I've noticed that the channel is growing quite quickly, so I'm doing my best to keep the weekly content consistent. Let me know if there's anything you want to see me rank or any movies or shows you want to see me talk about here. And Mr. Luke Sanders mentioned that he wanted to see an episode ranking of Avatar: The Last Airbender, so I plan on starting my rewatch this summer and hopefully getting that video out sometime in August or September. But anyways, that's enough from me. Thanks again for tuning in. I will see you all next time.